Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, unite is a must. For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour Party. To serve the people, serve the people, serve the people, work for the people. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. DLP, we voting DLP, DLP, we voting DLP.
Vote for Berla, vote for Berla, vote. We need a prime minister representing St. Lucia, and Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need a true leader to help St. Lucia, and Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need clean water and not that time car. Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need a gemstone, not a flintstone. Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. Flintstone, Mr. Flintstone, your time is up now. Your time is up now. Your time is up right now. All we see is a big rock right at the top of Maycock. All we see is a big rock right at the top of Maycock. Right there so by the bus stop. Right there so by the bus stop. The man ain't turn up, but now he wants your vote. The man ain't turn up, but we gonna stinky boat. The man ain't turn up, but now he wants your vote. The man ain't show up, but we gonna rip his coat. Vote for Berla, vote. There we go, vote for Berla, vote. There is brown water in the pipe, oh what misery. There is brown water in the pipe, from ministry to ministry, from one to the next, you know, nothing you can show. So pack your bags, we don't want you no more cocoa. There is brown water in the pipe, oh what misery. There is brown water in the pipe, from ministry to ministry, from one to the next, we know, nothing you can show. So pack your bags, we don't want you no more cocoa. Vote for Berla, vote. 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 Vote for Berla, vote.
Sinful people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Who say Philip Westwick? David Eswick.
Yeah, brother Moff, bless up. Things are gonna change. Vote on Marie all the time. St. George South, the best person. Want y'all know that.
Come over for the marina, show me what you got. Come over for the marina, please don't give up. Come over for the marina, show me what you got. Come over for the marina, please don't give up.
Vote on Marie, she's the best for your constituency. Give her your votes, no regrets. You wanna take them back, and I guarantee you that. That's a matter of fact. Vote on Marie.
see. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. Let me go. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. What you say? No money, no job, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Go make your vote count. We vote till the bees out. Elect, elect, elect. Better leadership. Go make your vote count. We put till the bees out. Reject, reject, reject. All dictatorship. Come put up the blue, put up the gold. We are one Barbados. Put up the blue, put up the gold. Red cannot divide us. Like an eagle we go fly, soaring high in the sky. Like a phoenix we gon' rise. Tell them no, we won't die. It's only common sense. You're only about friends and self. Posing with celebrities. That is all we see. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no job, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no job, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. Whoa, we voting Dems. Hey, hey. Whoa, go make your vote count. We voting the bees out. Elect, elect, elect. Better leadership. Go make your vote count. We putting the bees out. Reject, reject, reject. All dictatorship. Come put up the blue, put up the gold. We are one Barbados. Put up the blue, put up the gold. Red cannot divide us. Like an eagle we go fly, soaring high in the sky. Like a phoenix we gon' rise. Tell them no, we won't die. It's only common sense. You're only about friends and self. Posing with celebrities. That is all we see. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. Let me go. No money, no jobs, we break. Only friends and family get. What you say? No money, no job, we break. Only friends and family get. No money, no jobs, we break. Go make your vote count. We vote till the bees out. Elect, elect, elect. Better leadership. Go make your vote count. We put till the bees out. Reject, reject, reject. All dictatorship. Come put up the blue, put up the gold. We are one Barbados. Put up the blue, put up the gold. Red cannot divide us. Like an eagle we go fly, soaring high in the sky. Like a phoenix we gon' rise. Tell them no, we won't die.
A pleasant good evening to everyone out there in Facebook land. I am your chairperson for this evening's meeting, coming to you live and direct from George Street Auditorium, Belleville, Barbados. All those in the hearing of my voice, welcome to all those on cyberspace. We will get right to it. This evening, I have coming to you first up a gentleman that has been a stalwart of the Democratic Labour Party for a very long time. He was former senator, also former general secretary of the Democratic Labour Party. I bring to you none other than Damien Griffith. And before we bring him to you, I will do a short word of prayer, because we have to do everything with God first. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you, Lord, for another evening where we can all come together. Lord, I ask you to touch these lips, touch my mind. Help us, Lord, though, even if we may make mistakes along the way, Lord God, that you know our hearts and you know our best, Lord Jesus. Lord God, there are none higher than you. For you, Lord God, are the author and finisher of our faith, Lord God, and we look to you even in these tumultuous times that we're living in. Touch every speaker, touch our president, Lord God, touch every single member, the technical team, right down to the last person in this great party, Lord God. I even stretch my hands out to the doors from the other side, Lord. Touch their minds, Lord God. I ask you these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Right, we are going to get to it. You will hear a little bit from me later, but now you want to hear from the man of the moment himself. I bring to you Mr. Damien Griffith, candidate for St. Michael.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me, we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados.
Good evening, Barbados and the wider world. We are here today because we have been thrust into an election campaign. We are here today because we have been thrust into an election campaign in the middle of a COVID wave. I think it is necessary for us to deliberate on why we have been brought here, who brought us here, and why we must, on January 19th, ensure that we vote to make sure we do not have to go through the indignities that we have experienced for the last 3.5 years. Now, we have been patient, we have been diligent, and we have been determined in addressing the COVID pandemic over the last 3.5 years. We have stayed inside when asked to. Nurses have given their all to ensure that patients who have COVID and all the other diseases that we are still having to contend with were taken care of. But we were thrust into an election campaign in an uncertain manner by the outgoing Prime Minister of this country. I say to you that we must assess her. Speaking to you as the candidate for St. Michael Northeast, it is important that you understand that her time is now coming to an end. For 30 years, she said to the people of St. Michael Northeast that she could provide better for them. For 27 years, they have entrusted her to be their guide in the constituency, to help and uplift people. But every step I take, every person I speak to, all I can hear is, we have been neglected. On January 19th, I encourage you to choose Damien Griffith to get over the morass, the neglect, and all of the abuse that you have suffered. Because while we do not say nothing has happened in the constituency, I think the focus has been wrong. For such a young constituency, we do not hear about empowering young people. We do not hear about how we are going to address the unemployment challenges and make the scenario better so that everyone in the constituency can grow together. Instead, we continue to hear about the two Barbadoses. One for the friends and family of the Barbados Labour Party and its leadership, and one for the rest of us who, having been told taxes like the NSRL were onerous and they were so bad and the economy could not live through them, I'm sure you remembered all the rhetoric that you were told, and they are trying to reuse it now, so you have heard it again in the last 3 weeks. But when in 2018, this current administration assumed office, they set about taxing the people of Barbados in a matter that could only be described as domestic abuse. I say that because, having complained about David Thompson attaining office and changing water rates from $24 to $30 and it being onerous, they took the opportunity to raise water rates from $30 to $85 without a care to how it affected the elderly, without a care for those on disability pensions, fixed income that cannot grow. They didn't worry about how those people would survive. And what did you get for it? A couple of garbage trucks and a garbage bin? The majority of Barbadians have been supporting this effort. But we are subsidizing the wealthy. We are subsidizing the big businesses. And it cannot continue. When we are fighting for a better Barbados for all, everybody must get their share. And that has not been the policy of the last administration. Instead, those who are their supporters have been rewarded, and the rest of us have suffered. Every time I step foot into the constituency, I'm told about the dreams, the hopes, and aspirations of the people of St. Michael Northeast. I only hope that on January 19th, they choose a leader in Damien Griffith who can work with them to get to those goals. Because for the last 27 years, having spent 17 out of 27 years as a minister, you still hear all the complaints about the inability to get the road repairs that people ask for. Things like street humps, to present neighborhoods where children can play freely without their parents being in fear of them being hit by a car. That was not a priority. Right in the center of the constituency sits the National Stadium, which needs to be repaired, which when repaired can bring life back to St. Michael Northeast. It used to be a place for entertainment activities, sporting activities, and gathering of people. But we have not seen attempts by this administration to repair it. And we must think of a brighter future where that facility becomes a hub again for the Caribbean. It needs a new velodrome so that we can have cycling again. It needs updated tracks. And we need to create a new stadium which looks at things like cutting down on the wind factor so that we can have international track and field tournaments in Barbados once again. It's not a yeoman's task to do it, but it is a task that requires community. It is a task that requires togetherness for us to find the resources and complete the refurbishment of that facility. And it will be important to the development of areas like Bush Hall, Long Gap, Whitehall, all of which are in the constituency. All of those areas have people who would like to be able to come out to these events and have concessions to sell food, to be able to sell other items, including clothing and t-shirts at these events, and help to generate more income for their families. I say to you, this is important from your leadership. You cannot have a situation where people are needing jobs, needing unemployment to be reduced, and there is no clear answer coming from your leadership. Instead, there's a vacuum. There's a lack of a voice because the leader believes because she has to fly here, there, and everywhere that the people must continue to suffer so that she can benefit. From January 19th, vote for the change. Vote for an individual who will spend his time in the constituency. Often as candidates, we are criticized for not getting to everyone in the constituency. I say to you, reach out to us. Because this election has been called with such short notice, we are working triple and overtime to make sure we get to you. But with constituencies so large and the time we have so short, we need your support in the form of outreach. Come to us as candidates and say, we need to hear you so we can give you that vote. Every time I reach a new area within the constituency, I am able to build my support. I have been so pleased, I have been so happy to have that support continuously coming. Those of you who have wondered about my health, who have tried to uplift me, bringing food, bringing whatever you could contribute and offering to assist, I thank you. And for that reason, I will continue to get into the constituency and speak to the issues. I also want to look at the fact that while we continuously have to deal with these high taxes, the services that we have often looked at and asked for have been neglected. Far too often in the last 6 months, having been ratified as a candidate for the Democratic Labour Party, I have been asked about housing. The Labour Party housing policy has been inadequate, is inadequate, and will be inadequate. We cannot allow them to be the people looking out for your shelter in the future, because they criticized when they were in opposition and they did nothing when they were in government. They have had every sort of idea about what you could do as a house. And I often am reminded of when they put houses in Queen's Park to talk about there being ladybird houses and mosquito houses and everything else that they came with. What you must remember is they always promise big and deliver little. The Democratic Labour Party spent 10 years creating houses for people in Barbados. I don't think we can be faulted for it. The one thing we can say is that even with that effort, we needed more low-income houses because the demand is so great. We cannot allow a system to continue where people register. I can use my own example of my family where a family member registered for an NHC assistance in getting a house in 1986. And they were first contacted in 2012 under a DLP administration trying to clear that backlog. We must build the houses to ensure that everyone who needs decent houses can get access to them. We need to create programs where people who need to repair existing houses can be given that opportunity and that access, because housing in our constituencies is far below the standard. We had a brief brush last year with Hurricane Elsa. And if it taught us nothing else, it should tell us that we must be more prepared to face natural disasters. We stand in the position that we are in now because the current leader thought it was okay to not pay the debt that we had agreed collectively as a country that we were going to incur. Rather, she thought to put it off to a later date. And we now cannot get the types of funding we need for programs like housing because we have gone to a lender of last resort as her first resort. We have tarnished the name of this country, tarnished it internationally, with people as far away as Asia and Australia being told, do not trust Barbados anymore. The Democratic Labour Party, when we speak of One Barbados, does not just speak of uplifting people, but giving them the ability to hold their heads high as a country that pays its debts to its foreign investors and its local investors. Because this government, this Labour Party government, chose not to pay the people of Barbados, having hard-working pensioners who invested their gratuities and their other funds into government paper, being told, you will not get your return. You have to vote on January 19th with the understanding that you are the only people who can turn around this situation. We deserve better. We need to say to the current administration that your time is done. Vote Democratic Labour Party to ensure that we get better for our people. Because we get a lot of rhetoric on their side. Everything that someone in this party does can be criticized from their side. But whenever it comes to looking at what benefits the people of Barbados, you see them hide. Look at the number of constituency offices that have not functioned over these last 3.5 years. They close their doors and they are not there for you. People always say candidates come and make promises. I am not in the habit of making promises, but I will make this promise. I intend to be in St. Michael Northeast today, tomorrow, and for the next 5 years and the future. Because as one people, one Barbados, we will do better. We will show the Barbados Labour Party what their loving people do. How we care about our neighbors, how we care about our supporters, and how we lift everyone up. Because I believe that we have lost our Christian bearings. We need to say to the people of Barbados, we are lifting you up like how our Father God would want us to do. Put him in front. Let him lead the way, and this country will be better. We don't have to have all the answers now. What we do need to do is listen. And I say to you, if you ever do see Prime Minister in the constituency of St. Michael Northeast any point in this election, say to her thank you. Because the one thing she has given you in the last 3.5 years is the opportunity to remove her. We are going to the polls on January 19th to deal with a problem. She thought that because of her popularity, she did not have to offer real solutions. So don't be bothered about those who will tell you all these things happened in the last 3 years. I have to speak to young people still who under the program were sent home. People who voted for the same Prime Minister, who looked at her with hope and for opportunity to come, and the first thing they got was a pink slip and sent home. Know who she is. She has showed you. Know that everything she tells you comes with a grain. You need to take it with a grain of salt, because it never is exactly what she promises. She talks big, she talks a lot, and she does not deliver. The people of St. Michael Northeast have had 27 years of it. And come January 9th, they are going to shake off the weight off their shoulders, get up and go to the polls and vote to remove a dictator, a despot who believes that she does not have to come to them to build solutions, but rather she can tell them what she wants to do and they must accept it. You can believe that having a derelict place in our constituency like the National Stadium, she chose instead to expand the botanical garden? Not because it is not something that would add to the aesthetics of the constituency, but it is that she chose not to go to the tried and true and tested areas that we know generate income for people in the constituency. And our constituency is large. I've spoken about Bush Hall, Whitehall, Long Gap, but there is Green Hill, there is Warrens, there's Jackson, there's Friendship Terrace, there's Jackman's, there's Bournes Village, there's Bibby's Lane, and every time you go into these places, you hear that enough is not being done. I say to you, you need to embrace Damien Griffith, because I am a worker, and what you will get day one is work. We are working now to gain your support, but after this election, we will be working with you to build the constituency you want, because this cannot be a top-down operation anymore. We must go to the people. We must continue to embrace them. And yes, it will be hard. We don't have 5,000 jobs sitting down to clear up the unemployment in the constituency, but we can work to ensure that programs are put in place that put people in touch with the resources to get those jobs. They need to know what jobs are available, what skills they need to get those jobs, to be trained to keep those jobs. And we have the infrastructure to do it. We have too many community centers that spend most of their time closed, or even as in the situation of Bush Hall, have to be manned and run by private entities rather than being pushed by the entities of government that should be making use of them. This is not good enough. It's not good enough for the people of St. Michael Northeast. It's not good enough for the people of Barbados. We must do better come January 19th. And I'm sure you can hear my passion, because it is upsetting to me that with so much talent in our country, so much talent in this constituency, we still fail to make sure that our people are getting better with every step they take. We must be building a country. Arabara once asked, what is your mirror image? And I can tell you clearly that I stand proudly to say in return to him, I am here to help. I am here to work with the people of St. Michael Northeast and Barbados, because I offer myself and I am committed to being out there amongst the people, to know what their suffering is and to work with them to get to a better situation. I don't come alone. I come with a strong backing of people who want to see the same in the constituency. And I'm telling you today that St. Michael Northeast, come January 20th, will have an army on the ground working to make their lives better. Because I see the suffering from the young, the old, and everybody in between. And I can no longer sit back and be idle when this is ongoing. So I say to you, know your heart. Know your heart when on January 19th you're asked to stand up. Stand up and vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Vote in St. Michael Northeast. Vote in the North in St. Lucie. Vote in the South in Christchurch and St. Philip. Vote in the East. Because all across this country, the neglect is real. But the Democratic Labour Party has offered you a slate of candidates that shows you the future. There is experience, there is youth, there is energy, and we are ready to work for you. We are going to help this country build its way out of the last 20 years. Because while we were hopeful, we have not met all of our targets. Instead, we are focusing on education and creating a system, because our youngest need to, from now, be taught and told about strong Barbados. They need to be told and shown how they can be stronger and better. Because just yesterday in my constituency, I spoke to a young man who inspired me. Every time I have felt disheartened or dispirited during this campaign, someone has arrived in my path who has brought me up. That young man spoke about being wrongfully accused of a crime and his fight to get over it. And my only admonishment to him was that he needed to ensure that he looked out for his young child, who I think God put in front of him to give him the reason to get out of his situation. He needs to be strong. He needs to grow so that his son can live in one Barbados, one strong Barbados, where opportunity is available to all. And I say to you, he has put a pep in my step because I am working for him. From now until January 19th, I will canvass. But after the 19th, we get to work. We must build the communities that we want to live in. We must create the programs that get our people into the situation where they can grow and glow up, as the young people say. We need our glow up in St. Michael Northeast. And that starts with creating infrastructure and policy that does better for all. So I say to you, embrace the message of One Barbados. Embrace the Democratic Labour Party. Embrace our team of 30 candidates and make sure that on January 9th from 6 to 6, you vote to make sure we are there. Our opponents are afraid because we have the truth and God's blessing is on our side. I ask you to ensure that you use your heart and your conscience when going to the polls. Look at what you have now and where you want to go. It is not a difficult decision. You have a clear choice of young, energetic, and engaging people to put in front of you. And I say to you, on January 19th, you will be able to unseat this administration in a quest to have the best for yourself. Stop worrying about those who are afraid of opposition, because a strong opposition is always necessary for a country to function. But a strong government should know its boundaries, not seeking to take everything, but to lift everyone up. And I think the distinction between the two parties is clear. We are not here to be in power. The Democratic Labour Party seeks office to make the lives of every Barbadian better. Know the difference. Vote your conscience. Vote Democratic Labour Party. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time and in listening to me. And I encourage you, reach out to all of our candidates. Reach out to me. Make sure that you have taken every opportunity available to you. And ensure on January 19th that you select the next government, a Democratic Labour Party government, which would uplift and uphold you. Thank you, good night, and God bless Barbados.
DLP, we voting DLP. DLP, we voting DLP. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP. DLP for all of we. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP. DLP for all of we. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, unite is a must. For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour Party. To serve the people, serve the people, serve the people, work for the people. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. DLP, we voting DLP, DLP, we voting DLP.
Vote for Berla, vote for Berla, vote. We need a prime minister representing St. Lucie, and Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need a true leader to help St. Lucie, and Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need clean water and not a tanker. Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. We need a gemstone, not a flintstone. Berla will make it happen. Berla will make it happen. Flintstone, Mr. Flintstone, your time is up now. Your time is up now. Your time is up right now. All we see is a big rock right at the top of Maycock. All we see is a big rock right at the top of Maycock. Right there so by the bus stop. Right there so by the bus stop. The man ain't turn up, but now he wants your vote. The man ain't turn up, but we gonna stinky boat. The man ain't turn up, but now he wants your vote. The man ain't show up, but we gonna rip his coat. Vote for Berla, vote. There we go, vote for Berla, vote. There is brown water in the pipe, oh what misery. There is brown water in the pipe, from ministry to ministry, from one to the next, you know, nothing
Hi guys, we are back here once again. You gotta love that jingle. I don't know about you, but I love it. And that jingle will be our victory song come January the 20th. When you go to the polls on January the 19th, you know what you have to do. You all out there in Facebook land, via YouTube, and all social media platforms, you all know what you have to do. The evidence is clear. The prosecution will rest their case come the 19th of January. You've heard from my comrade, Damian Griffith, the person that will take over and alleviate all fears to you all. People in St. Michael Northwest have been going through a lot. I've been down there and I've been talking to a lot of people. And you have to wonder why. If you're going through so much, then why continuously give a person that doesn't really care? She says stay the course. I don't know what course she wants to steer. This is not Bushy Park or anything of that. You have a person that claims a lot of pretty talk, fancy commitments, dreams, aspirations, and hopes that will come to nothing but just hot air coming from a kettle. You have a person that said that she is going to look forward to building 3 or 4 national stadiums. You can't even get one stadium fixed. How you expect to have more being done? People of Barbados, you need to vote in Damian Griffith. You need to vote in all candidates. We are here to save Barbados. And now I have another voice that's well known on social media platform by his nickname, Tobias, the candidate for St. James North. I'm talking about none other than Mr. Charles Worrell. He will come to you and he will put his case to you, and he will also prosecute this outgoing regime and let you know why you must elect him as the next MP for St. James North. He is able and he's ready to do the job. I bring to you none other than Tobias himself, Mr. Charles Worrell.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party.
Well, good evening, Barbados. Good evening, the Democratic Labour Party members, supporters. Good evening, those of you that will be listening to these programs. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an opportunity to be here. And so I hope and I expect that the moments that I will have to share with you will redeem your attention. For indeed, our country demands, for it requires a lot of correction, a lot of redirection, and therefore it demands that those of us who will present ourselves for leadership, for guidance, we must be ready to put our hands to the plow and do and accomplish for the people of Barbados those things that will make life far better than it has been for the last 3.5 years. My name is, actually I'll say this again, my name is Tobias, it's not an alias. But as in Barbados, you come along when you use a name and it sticks. Charles is also my name given by my godfather. So I'm the father of 7 children. Just so I give you a quick overview, all of whom are adults. I'm a very proud father of them as well. I lived in America for quite a while. I returned back more than 100 times in the time that I've been gone. I have never missed an election since 1981. And I've always been fairly active at the canvassing level. I'm a realtor. I'm a broker. I am licensed in financial services. That would be life insurance, health insurance, property casualty, which are home insurance, auto insurance. And for many years, I've practiced this art, this craft, this career. And there are a few others. I also work with autistic kids, Crohn's, Downs, schizophrenics, and stuff like that. In addition to that, I was ordained some 27 years ago as a minister. That will not, and hopefully will not, influence many things other than those things of the kingdom. But what that does is give you an overview as to who I am. I've participated at every level in Barbados. I'm an old St. Leonard's boy, went to community college, was president of the Guild Council there, opened the new college at Titchbourne with the Queen of England. She was brought down to declare it open, went on to Carefield campus where I sat on the committee for the restructuring of the conferences in Augustine, Jamaica and Barbados. Started out in Barbados as a tax accountant. And I guess all of this is important because what it speaks to is a roundedness that equips me for the job that is ahead. I am in St. James North. And so I'm going to speak to many things having to do with my constituency. But of course, as you would imagine, I will have also to look at certain nationalistic themes, because much of what has happened at the national level has affected the people of St. James. My opponent has been there now for a little while, and about 9 years, which is part of the last 41 years that seat has been carried by the Barbados Labour Party. 41 years. And therefore, one would have thought that having occupied that chair for that many years, there should be very few things left undone. This is not the case in my constituency. Indeed, so many things are of lamentable proportions. We are not going to deal with them specifically. We are going to lump them together as we go forth and show you some of the things that I believe would alleviate much of what is happening there as we forge a new reality for the people of St. James and indeed the people of Barbados. We have an issue, a big issue with roads. They're bad. I mean, they're rotten. We have a lot of issues with our kids, our young people. We have many people without light, water. We have a lot of houses that are in not unkempt, just in bad shape. On top of all of this, requests have been made in the past, and they have, for the most part, been rebuffed. And many times the question arises as to, where is my opponent? And many times that question is not answered in the affirmative. It means, therefore, that any effective leadership for the constituency of St. James North will have to do with a new consciousness, one that is benchmarked and underwritten with communication, with interacting with those constituents. Very wonderful people to me up to now. For this journey has been very, very well. Most of it, for 99%, has gone very, very well. And indeed, I look to next Wednesday night, just before I choose to go home, to be declared the duly elected member for that constituency. Not because it is fashionable to win, but it is important that we move to turn the lives and the fortunes around for the people of St. James North, as indeed with so many constituencies in this country. Leadership began with much untruth, much deception. For if you recall, we had 16 ministries, and the Prime Minister is on record as saying that there should be 11 because at least 5 of them crisscross. But more importantly, the money was not there to sustain 16 ministries. Shortly after that, she established around 28 of them, I believe. So a couple of weeks ago, 16 were too many, and now 28 is just enough. We had issues regarding wages, salary increases, where we saw ourselves being sold out as we offer very benevolent increases. All rejected, only to find the Prime Minister coming back and getting 4, but then out of the goodness of her heart, she said, I'll give them another point, another half a point, so it would be 4.5. We've seen the fortunes of the Barbados flag, a very sacred thing. And we've seen that gone to Ghana under the guise that there were some bones that were found. Archaeological reports I have not heard of, so I'm not going to say there were none. I am only going to say that I know not of any archaeological reports that say that these bones belong to Ghana. But it is more important to recognize that as that coffin boarded the plane, oh Lord, as it boarded the plane, Barbados flag was on there. And on until Barbados flag ended up in a grave in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, there's much work to be done. We are called a republic without a charter or a constitution. Much is left to be done. I want to see my constituents get back to a place where the elderly can have a whole lot more interaction. They can be part of everything that is going on. I want to get to a place where our young people are once again apprenticed and their skill sets are set up and certifiable so that they can get into places of entrepreneurship. I want to see those persons that have babies not spending more money in their care than they're making. And there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. Unfortunately, my time here is short. And so, I could only ask the people of St. James North that have been very, 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 very good to us up to now. I ask you to vote on Wednesday. I ask you to give yourself an opportunity to have a better life, to have a better future for your children and more so. I ask you not to simply accept that voting for a party is enough when nothing is being done by the person who is paid every month out of your tax dollars. And so, ladies and gentlemen, how much more time do I have? How much? Can you? How much? 9 minutes? Oh, good. No, I was told I have a little more play, so I will get a little play. Thank you. You know, and these are the things that I want to see happen. I want a hive of activity come back to St. James. I want to see groups where our young people can once again interact with each other, problem solve, conflict resolve. And don't forget, many years ago, We had Mr. Simmons over there. And Mr. Simmons had St. James with a hive of activity on a regular basis. That needs to come back. Our young people need to understand and to know what it is to be the people that they can be, not the people that TV and America say that they are. I want to see better roads. I want to see, for most part, a better housing plant. And I'm not talking about those tin and badoos that we bought from China. Only to remember that Guyana has all the lumber that we need, or most of the resources that we need. What's more, they are a sister country, and consequently we can benefit significantly from having that kind of transaction taking place. This Chinese and expansionism that has to be addressed at the national level. And so, we have a task before us. We have a country that has not had a budget since the mini budget of 2018. The question must be asked, what are we functioning on? What is the outflow and the inflow? We have a country where we have celebrated a republic after cutting the Queen off for whatever reasons. And up to now, as far as I know, there is no document that establishes a republic. The republic is supposed to be born out of that document. You can call it a charter, you can call it a constitution. I know of no such document. So my question to the Prime Minister would be, what is Barbados? Is it a republic? Is it a floating piece, mass in the sea? What is it? What tells us what our responsibilities and our rights are? So much we have to deal with. Now we are hearing that might be her last election. Folks, let's be straight. If you listen to the Prime Minister in days gone by, few weeks, months, and everything by, you heard 2027 coming out of her mouth every time. And now, and it brought us to this place where she's telling Barbados that they must not vote for an opposition. Look, in plain language, what that means is a one-party state. That means that the people of Barbados will not have a say in the things that happen. That is why we could have so-called discussions about a republic that did not reflect our position on the matter. And so we have a lot of work to do. But Barbados, this is not strange. Every time we give over government in good shape. And every time we assume government, we had some cleanup to do. This is no different. We have an able leader in our president, and I believe she would say she has some able people standing next to her. And so, people of St. James North, again I ask you to come out on Wednesday. Again I ask the people of Barbados to once again see a renewed and reinvigorated Democratic Labour Party with people who are willing and ready to bring back a life that you know. You will no longer be strangers in the land of your birth. Barbados will once again become our island home. But to get this job done, you have to start the ball rolling. You have to go out on Wednesday. In your numbers, don't stay home. And you have to vote next to the Democratic Labour Party. In other words, if we are going to do something, you have to help us do it. And you have to begin it come Wednesday. You have from 6 a.m. till 6:30, thereabouts. 12 hours. Let us get up in our numbers And let us do the things that we need to do. I am looking forward to making St. James North a very important part of the development and progress of our country. Because most of the things that I hope to be doing there are things that could be applied to each and every constituency in Barbados. And I think you realize that as we come to this job, there's a certain amount of energy that has to come with it. There's some vision that must never be lost, because we have always to understand who Barbados is. Its people, their aspirations. And so the business of governance, come next Thursday, that's the 20th of January, will have begun. And we have a job to do, a task at hand, to bring some balance and sobriety to the people of our country. And to once again, don't talk about Barbados being a 5-star and punching above its weight. There's no weight here. There are no stars here. There's manipulation. There's theatrics. And everything that goes against the common purposes of the people of Barbados. That must come to an end. The lady said she will not be contesting no more elections after this one. It needs to be made true. We must put her and her others out to pasture come next Wednesday. Barbados has suffered enough. And it is time for you to say, Barbados, no more. No more. For we are better people than this. And we demand to be treated better and to be given a better opportunity where our children can have a better chance in this world, where our children can have a better opportunity than we have. And it's for that we stand. And so, let's say to the Barbados Labour Party and all else, we will not go quietly into the night. Because our country demands it. Our country depends on it. And we will not let them down. And so, in closing, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity that we have here to share with you. I want to thank Barbadians for listening, for spending time with us as we navigate your way to Wednesday, the 19th of January. Let's meet back here on Thursday or Friday as jubilantly as we can, because we would have once again received your trust to be the guardians of Barbadian lives again. I want to thank you. Have a very good night, and I'll see you at the top. Bye-bye.
Yeah, brother Moff, bless up, bless up, bless up. Things are gonna change. Vote on Marie all the time. St. George South, the best person. Want y'all know that.
Yes, folks, you've heard from our brother Charles Tobias, or Charles World. And I just want to assure our good candidate, MP Hopeful, that don't worry. I do believe that the good folks of Barbados will do the right thing. Because it's imperative. This election, although it was called quickly, thinking that they can catch us off guard, which they did not, is a crucial election. The good folks of St. James North know what they have to do. Also, the good folks of Christchurch West Central will know what they have to do. Coming to the podium shortly is another fierce lady, a person that cares about the people of her constituency. She is strong-willed, she's a businesswoman, highly intelligent, down-to-earth, and a no-nonsense person. We have 3 strong women, but yet they want to say that the Democratic Labour Party don't respect their women, that they don't care about their women. Well, we have proven them wrong. And we will prove them wrong come January the 19th when you elect your next MP for Christchurch West Central. I'm talking about none other than my comrade, friend, her name, Renee Demont.
For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour Party. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people, work for the people. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. We going with DLP, one Barbados for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of we. DLP, we voting DLP.
Good evening. I speak to you tonight as a candidate for Christchurch West Central and as the next representative of Christchurch West Central. How I got here. My interest and involvement in politics is a natural extension of my involvement in charity causes across Barbados. Because of this, I took the decision to fully immerse myself in mainstream electoral politics on the invitation of my good friend Stephen Blackett, who encouraged me to join the party and seek nomination for a constituency. I since met with party leader, President Verla de Pisa, and the rest is history. Following this, I had the good fortune of being introduced to the executive of Christchurch West Central, and I was welcomed with open arms into the fold of the branch. My experience with them ever since has been like a family, warm, inviting, and I thank them all. But tonight, I am also here to discuss several issues that have been confronting Barbadians over the past years. First, I'm going to look at representation. I want my people to know that it is a full-time job, and once given the opportunity, I intend to be the best representative of Christchurch West Central. I intend to be dedicated. I intend to support every constituent. I intend to be there. I intend to address the needs of my constituents. And I intend to be the best. However, right now, Barbados is at crossroads as I speak to all of you tonight. However, it is a country that facilitates democracy, a democratic process, and that is what we're striving for in Barbados. Democracy is not when one person has all the power and will rule and divide, but that power should be shared. Barbados and Barbadians must vote against this undemocratic process. In fact, an undemocratic process is a decision that is controlled by one person. Let's talk about the Republic. We have gone to the Republic and we have removed the Queen. Why is that? It is because we as Barbadians should determine our fate. However, we were promised a constitutional reform. Instead, we were looking forward to a constitution, But today, we are experiencing that we are dealing with an election. Democracy at its best. Part of a democracy is a sound democracy, and no one individual should determine the fate of over 300,000 Barbadians. This has been creeping into our so-called way of living, where one person is given all the opportunity and one person can voice their opinion. If your opinion is variant to that person, then it becomes a problem in Barbados. Division in Barbados. The government has said that the country is divided, but who has divided this country? Certainly not the Democratic Labour Party. In fact, we are talking about one Barbados. We intend to strive in one Barbados. We intend to bring our people along with regards to one Barbados. The divide starts with the BLP. It is not us. Everywhere you turn and everywhere you look, even when you look into the newspaper, someone from the BLP is jumping ship. This is the middle of a campaign, at least. In fact, we're near the end of the campaign, and persons are still jumping ship with regards to the Barbados Labour Party. We are divided. Something is wrong in Barbados. However, I have a message for each of you. It is not what is wrong out there. It is not what is wrong in the Democratic Labour Party, but is what is wrong in the Barbados Labour Party. It is my experience as a trained psychologist and as a former lecturer of the University of the West Indies KFL campus to determine and to know when something is wrong, when we can observe that individuals begin to distance themselves. This tells me as a lecturer that something is wrong psychologically. It comes down to behavioral science. It is always because of that individual's behavior. And on this note, I must ask the question, who is dividing Barbados? Afraid? A lot of people are afraid in Barbados, afraid to speak, afraid to discuss issues. But issues must be discussed. Issues must be discussed among my people, because it is from discussing issues that Barbadians are able to deal with those issues effectively, cope with them effectively, and therefore issues must be discussed at the table, at the round table, at families' table, in social gatherings. But why are Barbadians afraid to discuss issues? That is an area that we must look at and determine why Barbadians are afraid today. Look, we have a trade union movement, and in Barbados it's sad to say that now that the trade union movement and the persons who would have been involved in the trade union movement have come to view that dwindling away among Barbadians. We have unions that could join a government and not help their people. So one must ask the question, why should Barbadians continue to financially support unions if unions cannot and will not support workers when they are confronted with issues? And on this note, I am a trained and former nurse, and I must be able to speak on this issue tonight. We have the issue regarding nurses. Nurses have been complaining about poor working conditions for years. On one hand, we have a government that can praise them, but on the other hand, we have a government that intend to disrespect them, that intend to not support them. Then we have unions that join with government, and this is a disgrace in Barbados. And therefore, nurses were on their own with little support. Unions supposed to represent workers, and we need unions not to join government in terms of creating the divide. Unions help create a divide in this country, and the government is creating a further divide by allowing unions to join them and not represent workers. Nurses are precious. Nurses give up their time. Nurses give up their resources. Nurses spend their own resources to help patients. By extension, there are the ones who work in unsociable hours, who give up their time, and therefore they should be respected at every level. Tonight, I must continue to talk about who I am. I must give a little bit about who I am also. I am a trained forensic psychologist, trained nurse, former lecturer at the University of the West Indies, KFL campus, former tutor at the Barbados Community College. We have taught several courses, course writer, UWI, Open Campus, author of a book called The Psychology of Creating Success from Within, Do It, and now I am finishing up with law at the University of the West Indies. So I am well educated and I can speak to these issues. What I intend to do for my constituents, I cannot leave this podium without discussing what I intend to do for my constituents, because my constituents in Christchurch, West Central, must benefit from my humanitarian effort. I intend to set up a psychosocial program, and I believe that this is important because, as I speak tonight, many Barbadians are still reeling and still suffering from the pandemic, from the many issues that have been placed out there, from the social barriers, from the psychological issues, from the stress, from the anxiety. Some suffered sadness, some suffered depression throughout this pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic, and many of those ills will continue to happen. I intend to implement a wealth creation program because I am tired of my people working from paycheck to paycheck, and some wealth creation must be available for Barbadians to strive and live a quality of life. I intend to implement an anti-crime program, and you can all appreciate that negative criminal activity is part of my training, and we must be able to keep communities safe. This would assist youth by helping them to see alternative avenues to crime and violence. This is an initiative designed to also help build self-esteem, because we need to build self-esteem among persons, self-awareness, and certainly self-worth. I intend to implement a forensic psychological clinic, and as much as crime is a social construct, it is also a psychological one. This forensic clinic will be designed to investigate, implement, and offer solutions to young people. I pledge to implement an anti-drug program. I pledge to implement a capacity building program. The implementation of a SEEK program. The acronym SEEK stands for Search, Employment, Education, and Knowledge. And buttressed to that will be a mentorship program, because rather than leaving persons on their own to find and create work, I intend to use a mentorship program to help assist those persons. I intend to implement a suicide think it over program. Only last week, we have a suicide in Barbados, and I mean that this is very sad. And when persons commit suicide, one can often reassure that the society has failed that person in more than one regard, because a person does not wake up one morning and decide that they're going to commit suicide. When persons come to the point where they are suicidal, it means that they're hopeless, helpless, viewing life in a negative view. And my thing is that before persons reach that level, I must be able to combat that by implementing this suicide think it over program to help deal with mental health issues, sadness and depression, and thereby giving person a hopeful outlook that they can reach and combat any psychological problem. I intend to implement a Go Help Me Fund program, and this is for my constituents, and I believe that help should always be there financially, because persons go through financial difficulty from time to time, and that fund will be created to help those persons in need. I pledge to be the best parliamentarian. I pledge always to be of assistance to as many of my constituents as possible. I pledge to celebrate with them in happiness and commensurate with them in time of sorrow. I pledge to leave the constituency of Christchurch West Central a better place than I found it. However, I can go on and on and on. 5 minutes. Anyhow, a few more issues I intend to discuss tonight. I'll look at the increase in bus fares. I believe that has created many financial difficulties for Barbadians over the past couple of years, and this is something that we have to reverse. Let's look at the sewage tax and water bills. Water is a need, and therefore Barbadians should be able to enjoy water in peace without an additional burden or without any financial burden to the existing water bill. And this is one tax that must be reversed. Let's look at the introduction of employment contracts for senior civil servants across Barbados. I was a civil servant before, and therefore I think that this will be a detriment to civil servants, because civil servants work throughout the civil service, work for many years, and they should be able to enjoy upward mobility when it comes to employment. And therefore, once a government tend to create employment contracts, it means that senior positions in Barbados will be cherry-picked. What about the removal of God? Now, this is an issue that has touched many Barbadians. God is supposed to be the supreme being. He is the higher power, and many Barbadians look forward to worshiping him from Sunday to Sunday. There should be no removal of God, no removal of God to the tune that it suits any government, and that he must remain the supreme being, and the name God should never be removed, because it acts as a pillar, is a pillar for individuals to function, to look up to. And we often know that when Barbadians are confronted with problems, Barbadians seek the church. And when they seek the church, they're going there so that they can feel better about themselves, that the same God can help them. And therefore, we must not remove God in any way or in any fashion. We were promised a constitution. I look forward to that constitution being revised when the Democratic Labour Party regains power. And I thank you.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP for all of me. We got the plan to see DLP, we voting DLP. DLP, we voting DLP. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me, we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, unite is a must. For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour Party. To serve the people, serve the people, serve the people, work for the people. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with
Then we're back here live and direct. Again, I want to say a good evening to all who may be now joining on social media platform and coming on live to hear not only the policies that we will be implementing once we assume office come January the 19th, but also hearing the treacherous way that the outgoing regime has run this Barbadian landscape. It's great to hear from our comrade from Christchurch, Renee, all her plans and what she intends to do. And believe you me, she is a very straight talking woman. She will do it. She will do it. I will introduce to you a person that is very dear to me. I grew up around. I learned a lot, all of us did, learn a lot from this gentleman. He is a stalwart of this party. He is what we will call the walking encyclopedia, as he's affectionately known to all of us. He taught me a lot about politics when I grew up between the late Earl Walton Barrow and his sister Dame Nita Barrow. I have nothing but utmost respect for this gentleman. He will come to you now, live and direct, and not only talk to you about the policies, the factual and realistic policies of the Democratic Labour Party, and also assist us further in prosecuting this outgoing regime, and give you more reasons why you need to vote DLP. I bring to the podium now none other than my comrade, friend, and former Senator, Mr. Reginald Hunt.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me. DLP, we voting DLP. DLP, we voting DLP. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP united.
Thank you very much.
For sure you can trust.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairman. This is a campaign that is going to produce and is producing a lot of rhetoric. And the Barbados Labour Party is full of that. I heard Ms. Motley this morning on the radio speaking about debt and what the Democratic Labour Party left and all of that. Now, honestly, I don't like stupidity in politics, and there's a lot of stupidity, a lot of rhetoric that comes out of the Barbados Labour Party. Government is a continuum. Government is not necessarily about party or a party. It is a continuum from one government to the other, because our slogan is One Barbados. One Barbados. So when a country accumulates debt, it is not necessarily the debt of any one person or not the debt of a political party, because whatever party it is, when they go or when that prime minister go or when whatever, the debt has to be paid. And I want to demonstrate to you tonight, in the short time that they give me, why I speak about the rhetoric of the Barbados Labour Party. It has not changed. The Democratic Labour Party, after 15 years in office, the people thought it was their choice. The margins were small, but it doesn't matter. In our system, the first past the post is in operation, or operates for that matter. But whether you win by 2 votes, 3 votes, or 4 votes, or whatever, once that is valid, you're the person that wins the seat. So wherever the majority goes, that is the party that will form the government of Barbados. And I want to demonstrate to you tonight Barbados Labour Party rhetoric. In 1971, Mr. Barrow, after overwhelming victory, he addressed the Barbados Chamber of Commerce. And at that gathering, he said there are going to be full employment by 1976. This is just after the 1971 election. What happened in between there that confused all of that situation, completely threw the country or the government off the rail, was that you had an oil crisis where the producers in the Middle East held the whole world up to ransom as far as oil and the increases were concerned. Barbados had to pay that price. Oil prices were, of course, triple, and really triple, might be double triple if you can use that term. Because Barbados was buying oil, as I recall, about $10 for a 45-gallon imperial gallon. It rattled the finances of the Democratic Labour Party government at the time. Therefore, plans had to be shelved. I remember prices went up because business people always enjoy those crises, because what they do is that once a commodity becomes scarce, or allegedly so, they up the prices. And I'll give you one example because I was a salesman at the time. Oil stores, ordinary oil stores that people would buy to do extra things, maybe on the yard feed for the dogs and so on, went from about $20, $25 to over $60 for a 2-burner oil stove. So, the Barbados Labour Party, during the budget of that year, Mr. Barrow presented his budget. Tom Adams, as clever as he was, they said, oh, all kinds of things are supposed to be happening in Barbados. They said, unemployment at 21%, sorry, at 21%. And all kinds of woes. They spoke about agriculture in disarray, everything they said. When it came to the manifesto they had written for the election, they said it was 25%. And I want to read from the same in the archives when I heard that I was going to ask to speak tonight. And for the record, that is the 1976 manifesto of the Barbados Labour Party, 46 years ago. I am not a professional researcher. I am not a historian by recognition. I am a collector of information. And I collect information. And I just want to read just a paragraph from their 1976 manifesto. Under the subheading on page 3, Economic Policy. The Barbados economy is today in a sadly depressed state. They wrote the truth because that is what's happening now. Unemployment has reached an all-time high of over 25% of the true labor force. The agriculture acreage has declined and has the output from this sector with a corresponding loss of jobs in the area of light industry, the persistent flight of foreign investors, all of that is happening now, had resulted in there being no more persons employed. That is where the rhetoric comes in. That in 1976, they are saying there are no more people employed than there were in 1960. I want to read it for you again. In 1976, they are saying this in their manifesto, that there are no more persons employed than there were in 1960. When you had all of those people, those young people working down in the factories and so on, all in Grisettes and down the Harbor Road, areas of production and industries that the Democratic Labour Party created. Rhetoric, Barbados Labour Party is full of that, and they must be exposed. And they do it every time, and kind of confuse people's heads in this country that they go to the polls expecting honey and all of those things, and they get what they get, as they're getting in some cases now. But let me tell you, I said last night here that Mr. Barr is not for this lot of borrowing money. But I want to give you what their record was when they took the government after the 1976 general election. But before I do that, September of 1976, the national debt stood at $241 million, 241.1 million. By the end of December 1981, that debt had skyrocketed to $493.2 million. These were the same people that were talking in their manifesto and being critical of the Democratic Labour Party. What opposition parties will do. But look, in just 4 years, 5 years, the debt increased twofold to $423.2 million. And paying some interest of $60.8 million. Whilst the Democratic Labour Party was only paying government, let me mention the word government because that is very important. Because you wouldn't see parties in the Constitution in Barbados. Constitution in Barbados do not recognize political parties. It is always the government or whatever offices that are set up in government. So you move from all of this rhetoric, well, I read to you just now under their economic policy, or speaking about their economic policy, what they said. Similarly, when they come back here, in this election, 44 years later, and said you cannot get out of a recession by taxing people. Or to be correct term, you can't tax your way out. Same kind of rhetoric after 45 years. It's all written here. I don't throw away anything. My interest is politics, and I research and do the things based on politics, because whenever I want a platform, I must be able to speak from facts. That is my record. I don't need to read much more of this. I just wanted to give you the balance between the two. I just want to give you that. The Democratic Labour Party government at the time had a line of credit from Trinidad of some $20 million. That is for the purchase of oil, particularly. That is the line of credit. In other words, they can trust up to $20 million because oil was rather cheap at the time and all of that. Now it must be probably going to $100 a barrel. And a barrel is 45 gallons. Barrel is 45 gallons. And that is what is headed now. So, the Democratic Labour Party, now after challenges, and there are always challenges, even on Mr. Sandifer, there were some problems in the Middle East as well, when they had the war between the United States of America and down there with Iraq. So these are always challenges that governments, not necessarily governments in small developing countries, but it affects governments in small development countries because they do not have that kind of finances that some other countries do have. So the real human in me tells me that there will be challenges from time to time under any government, any part of the world. There will be. There always will be. But what seemed to confuse us here in Barbados, some of us, is that when the Barbados Labour Party come with all of this rhetoric, they've been doing it from 1961, and I'll tell you about that shortly. These things need to be spelled out. The Barbados Labour Party record is one of rhetoric and confusion in this country, and people fall for it. And I will tell you that the Democratic Labour Party took up the government in 1961, and they started off with a deficit. Now, what was that deficit? There was a salary agreement in 1961. What we call in Barbados back pay was to be paid in October of that year. They did not pay it. They called the election like they're doing now, another circumstances that face them, and putting us, and putting our lives and our health in serious, as the old people say, pocketary. That was the old people's word, pocketary. Calling an election and saying we ain't ready. That took them by surprise because they thought we don't have the large amounts of money like they have at their disposal. We are a humble political party interested in the working class. So in October of that year, what we call back pay, the back pay accumulation at the time was $1 million. They called the election for December the 4th, which the Democratic Labour Party won. And those of you who are old enough to remember, will remember that when that back pay was paid, because the budget of Barbados at the time, let me forget that, the budget of Barbados at the time was $25 million. You're talking about this $1 billion economy now that we're talking about here in Barbados. But at that time, the budget was $25 million. And that is why when the back pay was paid, I don't know where Barry got the money from, but he got it. Mr. Barrow. The people went in town when they got that money and start calling for Baraham. Gave them a 13 shirts where they ordered the day then and punted tip shoes and all of that. Give me a Baraham. Some of you old enough to remember, ask your fathers, ask your mother. I remember very well. Very, very well I remember. And therefore, the Democratic Labour Party started off with $1 million deficit in respect of a budget of $25 million. That is why whenever I speak on these platforms, I say I remember very well what Barbados was like before 1961, or maybe 1960. 1962, because the Democratic Labour Party took up office really in 1962. The election was December the 4th, 1961. So the record of the Democratic Labour Party cannot be questioned. And I challenge anybody, here, there, or anywhere, to produce evidence that the Democratic Labour Party or the administration have tried to destroy the economy or the people of this country. When in truth, in fact, they lift them up And I feel very passionate about it. I'm not afraid of anybody in the Barbados Labour Party. I deal with politics. I deal with facts. And even the current leader, she no more than about, what, 55? So that when this Barbados Labour Party manifesto was written, she went no more than about, what, 10 years old? They have to go back, go in the archives, go in the files, before they come trying to bamboozle your head. They don't like you to go back because they don't like people to speak the truth. They don't like that. I heard it this morning. It is safer with me and Motley. It is safer with me and Motley, and we out here in a pandemic. We are out here in a pandemic. And it is safer with Motley. How much the rate gone up now to about, what, 24%? Look, you know, I got this country at heart. This is my country. This is where I born. I don't care where I travel. This is where I born. And once I am alive, I will put up my hand to defend, first, the country, and second, to defend the record of the Democratic Labour Party. Because my party, that I've been a member for nearly 54 years, has done tremendous work. Tremendous work. And who don't like to hear the facts? They can't help that. But the facts are the facts. In fact, they say facts are facts and truth is truth. Well, they're both. They're both facts and it's both truthful. And sometimes when I say I don't really listen to the calling programs, because I'm not going to call. I'm not going to call and talk to people that I can't see. People can hide behind a microphone and they can hide behind the telephones. And I tell you, I want to see you face to face. Let me see you face to face. I want to deal with you. Not calling for anybody to come, oh, you don't know what. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. Because our people need to understand this. Rome wasn't built in a day, if we use that. Barbados is still a developing country. And we must clearly understand that there are going to be bumps in the road in every country. I've been watching what's going on with Russia. It's a country I went to, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I believe in their policies and programs, especially since Putin has been there. Because the population of Russia is decreasing. They're producing more weapons than they're producing people. Well, they can't create people, but when we say producing, we know what we mean. And it seemed to me that Russia trying to get themselves involved in conflicts to completely offset the Americans, because we are in the era of nuclear weaponry. So my friends, I'm going to give away now, but I just want you to leave this with you. Wherever you are, and whatever you're doing, I want you to send a strong message to the Barbados Labour Party by voting for the Democratic Labour Party in your numbers on January 19th. Good night and God bless you.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP, DLP for all of me. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, unite is a must. For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour Party. To serve the people, serve the people, serve the people, work for the people. Serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP, DLP for all of we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP, DLP for all of we DLP, we voting DLP.
Alrighty, folks, you've heard some really wealthful knowledge there from our resident historian, Comrade Reginald Hunt, affectionately known to me as Reggie. He has done a lot for this party, and I am sure he has a lot more to offer us when we retain office, when we make sure we bring back Barbados in the rightful place where it belongs for all Barbadians and all citizens alike. You have heard evidence thus far. And before I bring on our next speaker, who will give you even further evidence and also tell the good folks of Christ Church South what his intentions and what he will do once you elect him as MP of that constituency, I want you all to remember and never forget the words of the outgoing MP. She criticized and said that you don't know what you're talking about, that Bajan stupid. Remember those words? You remember what she said when she called this election on a day that was solemn? Why did she call it so quickly? Why would she say that harsh decisions must be made? She says one thing and they do an X. I put it to you. This party, this outgoing party has failed us politically, spiritually, morally, and socially. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring my guy, Mr. Mark Laurent. Come forth, my brother.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party.
Thank you, Adrian. I want to say goodnight to each and every viewer online who has taken time out of their night to spend listening to the deliveries of each and every candidate and speaker here tonight. And it's important that we thank them because they've invested their time, they've invested their knowledge, they've invested their passion and belief in the Democratic Labour Party. And that is what has kept us strong. That is what has kept us alive. After 2018, it was anticipated that a defeat such as the one that was experienced would forever lead the Democratic Labour Party in the doldrums of wandering. But we can all assure you, and you can see it for yourself, that with the visionary leadership of our president, Ms. Verla de Pisa, and her unwavering support and strength to this party, we are still here today. And might I add, we are stronger than we ever were before. I personally would like to speak on a few topics tonight, but let's first address one of the reasons why we're here tonight, and that's because an election was called. And thankfully, the candidates from the Democratic Labour Party were on the ground prior to calling of the elections. We didn't have the support of the media. I would say control of the media, more so. We weren't constantly in the eyes of Barbadians, but we were constantly in the faces of Barbadians. We were constantly at their doors. We were listening to them. We were establishing solutions for some of the challenges that they were having, and we were bringing it back to headquarters and using that feedback to develop a plan to take our country forward, our Barbados forward, our people forward. And one of the major complaints that I've gotten from a number of residents as I canvass is the fact that an election was called with just 23 or so odd days for the public to listen to the deliveries from the alternative parties. And many Barbadians consider that a slap in the face because you do not give the electorate enough time to make an educated decision. But as I said earlier, thankfully, we were on the ground and we were working. And that is the commitment that the Democratic Labour Party has given to the citizens of Barbados, and we will not fail. We will not stop until we can reach every Barbadian and design programs and initiatives that enable them to move forward within this economy. So tonight we're going to speak on a few things. I represent Christchurch South, and it has been my calling and passion. It has been a responsibility that I've taken on with pride, because I not only have the support of my party and candidates backing me, I have the support of the constituents who I intend to serve. And thankfully, this is not the first time I've served them. I've served them in the past. We've also done work with young sports persons in the HL Human Development Foundation. So when the traditional rhetoric that the Democratic Labour Party is not ready seems to infiltrate the minds of the media and the populace, we can push back against that because we have always been ready. We have been on the ground and working, and it is time that we look to the Barbados Labour Party and say, you were wrong. You got it wrong once again. The Democratic Labour Party does not have a slate of new candidates. The Democratic Labour Party has a slate of new success stories, new approach to governance. We are not top-heavy. We have a balanced portfolio of candidates who understand the challenges, the socio-economic challenges, the legal challenges, the mental challenges, and the physical challenges of our population. We have tried, tested, and proven approaches to progression in a stagnated economy. Because thankfully to the vision of our forefathers, and I would like to humbly add our President Verla de Pisa to that list of our current fathers and mothers, we are back to represent Barbadians once again. And Barbadians, we thank you because you have understood the challenges that the country has faced within the last 3.5 years. You have stepped up and said, no more. We are not going to experience these draconian measures constantly. We want to turn around our economy. And one of the best ways that we can turn around our economy is investing in our people. And if we start at the base, let's think about education. We have a wealth of educated individuals in Barbados who have been complaining that they are unable to find jobs that match their qualifications simply because we do not seem to be competitive in a global economy. The gig economy is growing, and very few Barbadians have had the opportunity to take advantage of this gig economy because I'll give you a little backstory. I've spoken with a number of educators, teachers, professors from primary, tertiary to secondary level. And their feedback tells me that the educational system has failed us. And if they're the persons on the ground responding to the challenges of students, and they can come back and say that the educational system has failed us, then we know that we have a serious challenge. The next most important thing that we need to focus on is wealth creation. We have heard rumors that the middle class is slowly shrinking, despite the savings balances in our banks reaching upwards of $12 billion. And that's because, let's face it, we From the time you came out of your womb, you were encouraged to open an account and start saving. And over the years, the last 3 years, Barbadians have responded to that exponentially. But we've forgotten a group of individuals who cannot save because the little income that they make does not allow them enough room, enough wiggle room within their salaries monthly to propel them forward. So it is time that regardless of the information that is available, we invest in teaching our citizens how to create wealth using incentives. A couple nights ago, the president spoke about stimulus packages. I believe in stimulus packages because stimulus packages help you to reach the most vulnerable individuals, invested in them financially so that they can start to target business ideas and opportunities which they previously would have given up on. There are many individuals that I speak to within my constituency who have given up their dreams, their goals and aspirations because the economic landscape does not seem to lend to them pursuing these dreams and goals. And we want to revitalize those dreams, those aspirations once again so that we can have a thriving economy. And one of the greatest ways to do this is to invest money into those individuals. And after that statement was made, we heard the responses, but where are you going to get the money from? If you really believe in your people, you will make the investment in them. Entrepreneurship is another challenge that Barbadians have faced over the last few years, and we tend to assume that entrepreneurs can only come from a certain age group, let's say between 17 to 25. But there are many entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, who become passionate about their visions and goals as they reach later stages in their lives. And they do not have the opportunity to pursue these goals because, as I said before, the economic landscape does not provide them with those opportunities. And to ensure that we can rebuild our economy, we need to focus on that group of individuals and provide them with the resources and the knowledge. It takes an investment. Let's face it, it's going to take a huge human resource and financial resource investment in those individuals so that we can propel them forward once again. And we've left out persons who would have faced some unfortunate circumstances in their past. And I have observed over the last few years that we have become an unforgiving society. It was said recently that the country is divided. We didn't divide the country. We didn't create that division. The Barbados Labour Party created that division, where the focus was on the haves rather than the have-nots. I've listened to so many of my constituents state that shops in their neighborhoods have suffered as a result of the constant shutdowns and COVID-19 protocols, when the same approach to the larger businesses could have been meted down to them, and they would have followed the rules, because if you drive through the neighborhoods, you will see them following the rules. You would see them following the protocols, the hand sanitizing stations. They ensure that there's social distances. So why couldn't we invest in them at the time and give them the opportunity to go forward? Another big challenge I have is how we invest in infrastructural projects. When you borrow at low interest rate to build roads, but do not invest in commerce to be facilitated along those road networks, you create an even greater challenge for our citizens, because the next tranche of borrowing will have to be at a higher interest rate, therefore preventing us from repaying on time. Over the next few days, Barbadians will be preparing to go to the polls to select a government to lead them into the future. And if you believe in the future of Barbados that holds you accountable, that understands your value, your input in society, and lifts you up, I encourage you to vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Let's take a look into Christchurch South. Over the next few months, we are going to transform Christchurch South. We are going to invest in education. It doesn't make sense to provide jobs if the individuals who are to assume those jobs in the next few years do not have the tools to allow them to flourish within these positions. So over the next 2 years within Christchurch South, we are going to go on a massive CV rewriting, a massive job preparation program, and we are going to force our constituents to rethink their approach to employment. I, along with my team, am going to forge relationships with the private sector to initiate apprenticeship and internship programs so that the youth who complain about not having the experience for jobs, so not being able to assume those jobs, will have the opportunity to work in various departments within a number of businesses within Christchurch South, preparing them for the career trajectory that they dreamed of previously. Entrepreneurship, as I mentioned earlier, is the key to success of many Barbadians. And it is not enough to say that the resources are available. Sometimes we need to take their hand and lead them to the water because they feel forgotten. Over the last few years, we seem to have become a selfish population. We seem to have lost the happiness that once thrived in our country. And the Democratic Labour Party, along with all of my colleagues, will individually boost the happiness within their constituencies to ensure that all Barbadians can relive the dreams and aspirations that they once had. It is time that we invest in our people. Sports. Sports is another consideration. We have many young athletes who are giving up on their opportunities because as they age, their sporting worth diminishes. And we need to grab them once again and invest in their development through programs that allow them to be scouted as early as 14 years old. Some footballers are developed from 12 years old and up and go through training camps all the way to 19 when they reach the international stage. And it is time that we do that for our Barbadians outside of cricket. We have sports like football, hockey, netball that make thousands of dollars on the global scale, while our sports people play for the formative years of their life, mash up their bones and their muscles and tendons on poorly kept sports facilities. And then when they reach the age of 30, there's nothing left for them. And what is worse is that we do not recognize them after. So the pride which they once had to represent the country falls once again, leading to unhappiness, leading to depression and mental health challenges that we seem to just brush by the wayside. And I say that we should reverse the damage that we have done to our population. And the Democratic Labour Party will ensure that this is completed in the best interest of all of our sports persons. So on the 19th of January, I want to encourage you to wake up early. Well, let's jump back. On the 18th of January, when you lay your head on your pillow, I want you to reinvigorate the dream that you had for your future and understand that there is a group of well-educated and experienced individuals who will fight for that dream for you. And when you wake on the morning of the 19th, put your mask on. If you need to double up your mask, please do. If you need help getting to the polling stations, call your constituency representatives. They've probably contacted you before to ensure that you can get a ride to the polling stations. Call a friend. Social distance. Walk with your hand sanitizer. And come out and vote for a party that cares about you. Come out and vote for a party that cares about our people. Come out and vote for a party that cares about our Barbados. Come out and vote for the Democratic Labour Party. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Mark Laurent, the Democratic Labour Party's candidate for Christchurch South, and I bid you a wonderful good evening. Thank you.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me, we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, united as a must.
Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, and that's it from the Democratic Labour Party office here in George Street, Belleville. You've heard from a majority of our candidates what they will do and what they will put forth to their respective constituencies. I want to take this opportunity now to say a goodbye to all of you on the different social media platforms, and I leave this with you. Weigh all the facts. Weigh everything in your mind. Don't let anybody fool you, mama, girl you, or whatever term you want to use. Come out. Do the right thing. Vote for one Barbados. Vote for one unity. Vote DLP. Vote morning, noon, and evening. Wear your mask, sanitize, maintain social distance. Don't wait to hear from nobody about safer. It's nothing safe. Because look what we are in now. Remember that. Stay tuned. Keep your ears posted to our social media platforms for where our other meetings would be and any news footage that you would need to go and get proper information from the DLP's website. Continue. Have a safe night. God bless. Goodbye from the Democratic Labour Party. Remember, vote Team DLP.
DLP, we voting DLP. DLP, we voting DLP. We going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me, we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of me. We got the plan to save this nation. Together we stand with the Democratic Labour Party. One Barbados, united as a must. For sure you can trust the Democratic Labour